And welcome back to Chicago Bulls Insider. Today we are doing a Josh Giddey contract update, along with talking about Yuki Kawamura and the chances of him signing a contract with the Chicago Bulls. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Monis Wazelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. So make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we are talking about Josh Giddey and the most recent update around him. And so if you've not got a chance to see this, you can go over to Bleacher Nation and you can read about this. This was published here by Elias Schuster. And so within this, you're going to see a snippet from Jake L. Fisher, who writes for the Stein line, and he gives us an interesting update here around Josh Giddey and the Chicago Bulls. And so this is what Jake L. Fisher had to say. He says that Giddey's representation has not wavered in its pursuit of a $30 million annual salary, sources say. While the Bulls' offers have been much closer to $20 million, Fisher wrote, Giddey has been in Las Vegas since Summer League play began, but did not make appearances at either of Chicago's first two Summer League games. All right, and so this is an interesting update as according to Jake L. Fisher, it looks like that they are about $10 million apart. And so, going back to a couple videos ago, I just talked about the ESPN article that really said that, it sounds like talks were going well and that all sources do expect for the Chicago Bulls and Josh Giddey to get a deal done, which I still strongly believe in that. It did talk about the fact that he was scheduled to meet with Billy Donovan and also to some other Bulls executives as well. And so this is an interesting update. And I say it's interesting because this is the first time that we see where the Chicago Bulls are with their number. I think that, we've heard the reports before that, he was looking for a $30 million deal. We've heard the fact that Jalen Suggs and that deal is something that they see along with the Emmanuel Quickly. Again, we don't know, not in his camp, obviously not representing Josh Giddey, but it sounds like those things all line up here. And so we'll see how this works out. I do think that there is going to be a resolution between the Chicago Bulls and Josh Giddey, because at this point in time, there hasn't been any other offers for Josh Giddey out there. I believe that the market has definitely dried up for restricted free agency. And I think the bottom line here is that it's been tough for restricted free agents because we haven't seen anything with Kuminga. We haven't seen anything with Quentin Grimes. We haven't seen anything with Josh Giddey, just to name, a couple of the big names here. And I just think that at some point, once a deal gets done, I think that that's when you're going to see a lot more things get done. And I'll say this, like Josh Giddey, he still has an option too. Like he could still go out there and play on the qualifying offer. We've talked about this before. This is something that really hasn't been too common over the last 10 years. There's only been 5 players that have played on the qualifying offer. But if he does do that, this would give him control as far as not being traded, because there he can veto the trades. And if he is traded on that qualifying offer, that's where he would lose the bird rights, which essentially that means a team can exceed the salary cap to sign you. And I just think that if it came down to that, where Josh Giddey plays on a qualifying offer, I think it would be awfully tough to get Josh Giddey back to the Chicago Bulls, because, if he comes out of that qualifying offer and he plays well, I think that you're going to see a lot more teams that are vying for his services. And also too, just probably him thinking like, hey, you could have got a deal done before he went on the qualifying offer. He may be less reluctant to go ahead and sign with the franchise there. And so who knows? It hasn't gotten to that point. That's strictly just speculation if it did get to the qualifying offer. But I just think that it's an interesting update for you there, that $10 million apart. So, I think that if you're looking at that and the Bulls are maybe starting there, there's always the chance that they can get to right in the middle, which is going to be $25 million. And what that looks like if they get to that number and the amount of years, I think it's going to be interesting. But if you're believing what AK had to say when he was on the NBA TV interview there, I think during the second game or the first game, one or the other, and he was talking about how he wants to secure Josh Giddey and Kobe White for the long term here, and he believes in that backcourt. And so we'll see what happens with this, but this is the latest update here around Josh Giddey. And so next, I wanted to go ahead and jump into Yuki Kawamura because, man, he has been huge for the Chicago Bulls in Summer League. And I've talked about this before, and I'll say it again. I just love watching his play out there. And so I think that when you look at Yuki, I think that you see a player, man, that just brings a ton of energy out there. I think in the wins or the losses, you can see that the energy changes over. And then I've talked about his defensive presence. I think that he's been really tremendous as far as guarding the ball and putting a lot of pressure out there because he forced an 8-second violation. He's pesky out there in the backcourt. He makes it tough for you to bring the basketball up the court. And you look, even if you cross the half court line and you don't get the 8-second violation, the fact that you had to work to get over that, you're thinking about the shot clock, it winds down and everything else. You have to speed up your offense. And so that helps your defense, just from the entirety with everybody out there. And so I've loved to see his defensive presence, and he's getting the steals as well. But more importantly, I've loved the creativity, man. I think that his creativity and his feel for the game has been terrific. And I would love to see Modest and then also to see a little bit more with Noah Asenge out there. But we knew that Modest wasn't going to play that much, but it was some highlights when they were out there that last game. And so, I knew coming into this thing that was going to be one of the headliners, but I definitely think that Yuki Kawamura has done enough to get a contract somewhere. Now, I know that there's a lot of talk of, well, can he get a contract with the Chicago Bulls? And so here's the thing. I think that he could get a two-way contract with the Chicago Bulls because even though they have Emmanuel Miller and they have Jameer Young, it doesn't mean that the Chicago Bulls couldn't make adjustments there. I think that really, to be honest with you, I know Jameer Young played very well last game, but I think that you could make a case for Yuki Kawamura, especially when you're talking about bringing him in on a two-way and really playing a lot of games with the Windy City Bulls, because I think that that's really the bottom line. And I think that just from a development standpoint, he would be great for Lachlan Ubrick. He would be great for Lachlan Ubrick. And he also would be great, too, for Noah Asenge if he does have to come down to the Windy City Bulls as well. So I think that he would be terrific there as far as helping with the pace, the spacing, defensively, the type of energy that the Bulls want to play. And so I think that, is it realistic for a two-way contract? Sure. Do I think that he could be a player that would be a high impact for the Chicago Bulls as far as the bigger roster? I think that that would be a tall order, because you think about it right now, assuming that they're going to go ahead and take care of Josh Giddey, which I think is going to happen here. You have Josh Giddey, you would have Kobe White. Then after that, you have Ayo Dosunmu, you have also Trey Jones, and then you still do have Javon Carter as well. Now, I know Javon Carter hasn't played like that, and I get that he's on a $6 million deal for the final of his contract, and so it's a 1 year, $6 million that he picked up. But even if they did move on from Javon Carter, I don't think that, Yuki Kawamura would go ahead and then say, okay, we have you in the Javon Carter role, and then you start playing him like that. I think that best with the Chicago Bulls, it would probably be a two-way contract. But I do think that as he continues to play, and I think that he's got one more opportunity here against the Utah Jazz on Friday, I think that, just the possibilities are endless for Yuki Kawamura, because I definitely think that he definitely should get an opportunity with somebody, if not the Chicago Bulls. And so it's been great to watch him. And I just love what he had to say, too, as well. So if you want to go and check this out, you can get a chance to see exactly what he's talking about as far as his major goal here. So you can go over to sportsillustrated.com. But this is what he had to say. He said that, look, I believe I can still play in the NBA. Kawamura said after the Bulls were defeated by the Raptors there. I want to get a contract, two-way, whatever. I just want to get a contract. And so I do think that absolutely he can get a contract in the NBA. I think he's definitely shown enough. Will it be with the Chicago Bulls on a two-way contract? Would not mind that at all. I'm wishing the best here for Yuki Kawamura, and I'm looking forward to seeing him on Friday against the Utah Jazz. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here, what are you guys thinking? Do you think that Yuki Kawamura is going to get a two-way offer here for the Chicago Bulls? Do you think that they'll clear a way to get him on the roster that way? Or do you think that he'll go somewhere else and get an opportunity, maybe a much better opportunity with somebody else? Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking there. And then next, let me know what you guys are thinking about Josh Giddey and this latest update here. So once again, this is all speculation. We don't know. But according to this latest report here from Jake L. Fisher, it looks like that the Bulls and Josh Giddey are about $10 million apart as far as where they are right now. Now, still, there's a ton of time here before we start to go into the NBA training camp and everything else. We just talked about the preseason schedule, so we're 82 days out from that. But this is going to be interesting, and I'm just looking forward to seeing how this gets resolved. And I'll say it again, I think that once the first restricted free agent gets taken care of, I think that that's probably where you're going to start to see some more movement within the NBA. But let me know what you guys are thinking here about this latest update around Josh Giddey and his contract. And so, as we always say, look, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.